I'm going to make this very simple for you, Dan. Men should not play sports against women. I'm not going to get into all the bullshit that's going on out here in the world today. If anybody think that, I think they're stupid. I'm not, like I say, I support the gay community 100%. I support the transgender community 100%. But I do not, under any circumstances, under zero, think that men should play sports against women. And if anybody have a problem with that, they're going to have to get over it, because I'm not going to change my...
I saw a video of Enes Kanter saying that he is declaring himself as a WNBA prospect. So he posted this on his social media. He said, if simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. And he basically says, based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in April 2027. Like, I don't know whether to laugh. I don't know whether to cry, because like I've said in other videos, this league is the anything but basketball league. The storylines around this league are never about basketball. And I didn't realize what I was signing up for by covering this league to the extent that I have been covering it for the past 3 years. Like, I actually like sports. I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about drama and negativity. And it's literally, that's the thing that's in your face.
Charles Barkley looked straight into the camera and essentially warned the WNBA that a lawsuit could be coming their way. And the strange part is, he might not be far off. What began as a joke video from a retired NBA center has spiraled into one of the messiest weeks in the league's history. Lawyers getting involved, sponsors growing uneasy, comment sections erupting into full-scale arguments, and Barkley sitting on national television calling the whole thing absolutely outrageous. Here's how a mock draft declaration snowballed into a real crisis for a league already struggling to control its own narrative.
Oh my gosh, it's happening. A former NBA star has now declared himself a prospect for the WNBA. This is Enes Kanter. He is 6'10", 250 pounds. He now says that he has reviewed all of the eligibility requirements and criteria for the WNBA and has decided to declare himself eligible for the 2027 WNBA draft.
Yo, shit just got real, y'all. If this is true, Enes Kanter said, you know what? It's time for the WNBA to put up or shut up. They want to talk about, they believe inclusivity and exclusion is never the answer, and there's not even a number big enough of people other than women, other than biological women who are playing in women's sports for it to matter, for all this fuss and all this, you know, all these people to be looking at it like a problem. Shit just got real.
Enes Kanter Freedom, the former NBA center who was pushed out of the league over his outspoken political views, posted a video declaring himself eligible for the 2027 WNBA draft. He didn't yell, and he didn't play it for laughs. He delivered a calm, almost legal-sounding statement directly to the camera, the kind of tone you'd expect from a press release, not from someone chasing viral clout.
Consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027.
Kanter's move so hard to brush off is that he never claimed to be mocking anyone. He said so plainly in the same video, I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I'm simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. That's a far cry from a troll account posting for laughs, which is why so many outlets struggle to write it off as a simple joke story. He framed the whole thing as a fairness test, noting that the WNBA's own collective bargaining agreement states only women are eligible, yet never defines what that means and never lays out any real policy for how gender identity factors into eligibility. Kanter's message essentially, if the door is open, he's walking through it politely.
I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman for purposes of basketball, professional basketball. So I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027.
Only thing I want to say is what happened to the people that made content, the people that wore t-shirts that wanted men to play with women? Where did they go? I've been looking for them. People at? Where's Cheryl Reeve at with some t-shirts? Where them content creators at, man? This would be such a good idea if Caitlin Clark had him as a teammate. Where all y'all go now? Y'all been real quiet around here, bro. Real quiet.
And things got even messier. Hours after Kanter's video surfaced, former Houston Rockets first-round pick Royce White appeared on Fox News and did the exact same thing, only louder and with far less patience for nuance. I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman for the purpose of basketball, professional basketball. So, I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027 as well. White said, completely straight-faced, while the anchor across from him seemed unsure whether this was satire or a genuine legal maneuver.
So, this could get interesting. Royce White, who is a former NBA player and a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, has decided to declare for the WNBA draft as a transgender individual, and he is testing to see exactly what the left is going to do. Now, I'm sure that many on the left are already going to cry foul over this because he looks, walks, and talks like a man. And I think that this is hopefully going to educate quite a few of them on what we have all been saying regarding this situation. Because this guy is a former NBA player, and it is realistically a situation where if they do accept him, it is going to heavily tilt the scales in favor of whatever team he ends up on. Now, if they end up rejecting him entirely, the left will have proved our point. So this is an interesting trap that the WNBA has been put in, as well as the left in the United States.
Two former NBA players, both over 6'8", both former first-round picks, both suddenly declaring their way into a women's league within the same 24 hours. Kanter, for what it's worth, has said in follow-up interviews that he's fully prepared to show up if the league somehow lets this play out to the end, half joking that he's already working on his crossover. At that point, this stopped looking like a one-off joke. It started to look like a coordinated statement, and the internet treated it that way immediately.
Very upset after another NBA player identifies as a woman and is now declaring for the WNBA draft.
I'm transgender. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman, declaring for the WNBA draft.
So yes, this is very true. We had Enes make the announcement yesterday, and we now have another former NBA player, Royce White, doing the same thing for the 2027 WNBA draft. Now, like I mentioned, a lot of people are very upset about this, so Royce White responded to this saying, I haven't even been publicly trans for 72 hours and I'm already getting so much hate. I just want to hoop with my girls in my feminine era. Why can't y'all be happy for me? Now, because of this, the WNBA announced that they are meeting to review what a woman is after recent events.
The reaction was instant and it was everywhere. On every app, in every group chat, spilling over into mainstream news within a single news cycle. The clips racked up hundreds of millions of combined views across every platform, and the comment sections turned into a genuine war zone music, with people arguing not just about basketball, but about fairness, identity, and where satire should end. Some found it hilarious, the perfect way to expose a policy nobody in the league office wanted to define out loud. Others felt that two grown men mocking a women's league, even while insisting they meant no disrespect, crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed for a punchline. Sponsors already uneasy about the league's ongoing trans policy controversy started fielding calls from reporters asking point-blank whether they'd stand by the WNBA through yet another PR storm. A couple of smaller regional sponsors reportedly paused their promotional campaigns entirely while they waited to see which way the wind was blowing. And at least one national brand quietly pulled a scheduled ad rotation for the week, according to people close to the league's marketing side.
Do not, under any circumstances, zero, think that men should play sports against women. And if anybody have a problem with that, they're going to have to get over it, because I'm not going to change. I just think it's wrong, period. If people disagree with me, I'm good with that. Hey, we disagree. Yeah. I'm not mad at you. I don't hate you. I'm not going to call you names, because that's just silly and stupid. But I'm never going to think it's all right for men to play sports against women. And I don't even think that's controversial. That's the thing that's funny. Like some of this stuff like when you see these debates on television, I'm like, yeah, men shouldn't play sports against women. I'm done. I don't want to hear you try to explain it to me. No, I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to argue with you. Men shouldn't play sports against women. I'm done. There's a lot of we can argue over.
That's when Charles Barkley weighed in, and he didn't hold back. Sitting on Inside the NBA, Barkley called the entire situation absolutely outrageous. But what made people stop scrolling and actually pay attention was this. He wasn't just angry at Kanter and White for making the video. He was angry at the WNBA for putting itself in a position where two guys with legitimate NBA resumes could construct a serious-sounding, legal argument for why they belonged in a women's league in the first place. Y'all did this to yourselves, Barkley said, pointing out that a league can't spend months refusing to publicly define who's actually eligible to play and then act shocked when people run with that vagueness as far as it will go. He added that the entire situation could have been avoided with one clear written policy months earlier, and that the league's silence is what created the opening.
What do you think of these NBA players?
I think it's awesome. I think if they want to be inclusive of the WNBA, so these coaches that have been coming out speaking against Sophie have been saying they're the most inclusive league there is. We're about to find out, right? I think they should let these guys go to the draft whatever they identify as, let them go into the draft and see what happens.
Yeah, I think so. You are really a legend in football. You're a Hall of Famer. You played in the league for more than a decade. And I was actually surprised when I saw you standing up for Sophie Cunningham, because we don't hear this often. What made you stand up for Sophie?
I just think it's a common sense issue. It's an 80-20 issue. It goes pretty much our way. I just don't understand why it's even a discussion. There should not be men and women's sports. It's just common sense, right? Biologically we're different. I think that's pretty well noted. People know that for the most part. I guess they have to have it explained to them sometimes, but it's not even an issue. Men should not be playing versus women. It shouldn't be in the locker room. Shouldn't be anywhere around them.
Barkley wasn't the only respected voice from the sports world to weigh in. Shaquille O'Neal, appearing on his own podcast a day later, said he found the whole controversy kind of funny and kind of sad at the same time, noting that Kanter and White had essentially forced a national conversation that reporters had been tiptoeing around for months. Former NFL linebacker Brian Urlacher, who rarely comments on WNBA storylines, posted that he didn't understand why people were angry at the messenger instead of the actual message, a line that got quoted across dozens of sports pages within hours. Kendrick Perkins struck a more measured tone on ESPN, saying he understood why some players felt mocked, but that dismissing the underlying question wasn't going to make it disappear, and that the league needed a real answer, not another statement full of vague language about respect and inclusion.
I had to come out and say it. I'm transgender, and I'd like to pursue a career in the WNBA in all women's sports. Pick one. But the WNBA is probably most suitable. For me, personally, I hear a lot of people talk about us transgenders as an sort of enigma, but nobody's really willing to just say no. We're not doing it. We're done. Fuck off. And why wouldn't I continue to pursue a WNBA career until the day when people finally put some guardrails back around common sense, logic, reason, the truth.
Understand why this hit the way it did, you have to rewind a few weeks. The whole controversy began when Fever guard Sophie Cunningham said in a simple interview answer that she wanted to protect young girls in sports and didn't believe biological men should compete against women. That single comment triggered a chain reaction across the entire league, with players and coaches picking sides in real time on live television and social media. Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve became one of the loudest voices on the other side of the debate, repeatedly and publicly stating her support for trans inclusion in the league, going as far as wearing a shirt reading "Trans Kids Belong" courtside during a nationally televised game against Cunningham's own team.
My views, as I said last week, I come from a space of inclusion, and the narrative that I think that is problematic is to suggest that number one, that transgender athletes are the biggest problem in women's sports. I think this is what's bothers, is that there's a faction of people in our country that are making this a massive issue. We have some issues. Number one, we need to protect trans kids. Every kid, to me, it's a human rights issue. Every kid has a right to sports, regardless of gender diverse, transgender. Every kid has the right to access. Now, what gets nuanced is, when you're beyond puberty, when you're an Olympic sport, when you're, scholarship systems, that sort of thing. That's where I say that common sense people get together and you find common ground. So find a way to be inclusive.